All right, let me do a sound check really quickly. Welcome to the Crypto Angel channel. Hopefully everyone is having a fantastic night. Should be live. I don't know why it's not saying I'm not live on YouTube, so let me figure that out really quickly. Welcome to the Crypto Angel channel. All right, the sound should be good. I hope everyone's having a great night. Let's look. Thank you for the like on YouTube. Let's go look right now at the Crypto Fear and Greed Index. Right now, the Crypto Fear and Greed Index is currently sitting at 53. We are neutral on that. Unless you're above 90 or below 10, I don't worry. So far, it looks like we're going back down. Yesterday we were at 55, last week we were at 73, and last month we were at 73 as well. So being at 53 is a great reset for the market. It does look like, and I think this was very necessary for a healthy bull run to continue higher. If the low ends up being 112,000, then this was a great time to buy. I wouldn't be surprised if we go lower, but very short term, I'm looking for a bounce. So we can look at the charts, kind of go over what we're going to look at. The next thing I do want to look at is Bookmap. This does show you where all the liquidity is at on Bitcoin. So let me go full screen here on this. On the right, you have the daily time frame. On the left, you have the weekly. You can see that on the weekly, starting on the highest time frames, Bitcoin still does have liquidity at about $125,000. But then you also have liquidity down here at about 110. If Bitcoin loses $112,000 as support, that is weekly support, so that'd be a very bad thing. But the next stop, though, if you lose 112K, it's 110K, and then you can see you have more liquidity at 105 and 108. So let's see what happens. I don't think that's going to happen, at least not for some time. But if we do lose 112, the next stop we'd be going to is that psychological support at 110,000. And then if you come over to the right, you can see you still have a lot of liquidity on the daily, even at 110,000. So to me, the daily, which is a smaller time frame between the daily and the weekly, this suggests that we do actually continue to roll over here. And probably in a week or two, you see 110,000. I still think we get some kind of dead cat bounce here and make a lower high, but we'll see. Because if you look to the upside, Bitcoin on the daily time frame has not much liquidity to the upside to speak of. So the biggest liquidity bar I see is to the downside here on Bookmap, suggesting at some point, maybe it takes a few weeks to happen, but at least at some point, 110,000 seems like the most likely scenario for Bitcoin. I'm not saying I want that to happen, but if it does happen, that'd be a good time to buy more. That's not financial advice, but Bookmap suggests that we do go down to 110,000. And, it could take 2 weeks to happen, but it does suggest right now that's the most likely scenario. There's no liquidity to speak of to the upside on Bookmap. So we'll see what happens, but Bookmap looks kind of sketchy to me. Looks like we could continue lower. Let's jump to the charts now. On the daily time frame, I said in a video the other day, I was looking for a rounded bottom and some kind of bounce. The daily stock RSI is starting to curve to the upside, so we'll see what happens. Can we finally get that bounce is the real question. 2-day time frame is also getting close to oversold, but at the end of the day, it is a lackluster bounce so far. The 12-hour time frame finally printing some kind of green candle, but it's not bullish engulfing. It's not even above the previous red candle. So until we see at least 114,000, I'm not going to get very excited for long. Like even the 8-hour time frame is not bullish engulfing. That is even bullish until we break 113.4, and we've yet to do that. The 6-hour time frame, that does have a bullish engulfing candle, but the stock RSI is still struggling. Now, the 6-hour time frame, can we hold a 200-day moving average? Maybe. The 4-hour time frame already lost it. That was back at $115,100. So to me, I'm not thrilled about what I'm seeing right now on Bitcoin. We are off the lows about, $2,000, so that's a good thing. I appreciate the likes. It does help support the channel. Thank you, Atar, for the follow on TikTok. But as far as I'm concerned, this is a pretty lackluster bounce, all things considered. $2,000 for Bitcoin is only about 1%. You can see even the 3-hour time frame well below the 200 as well. You could say that's tweezer bottoms on the 3-hour, but it doesn't look fantastic. The 2-hour time frame already overbought. That's a lower high. So to me, like the smaller time frame looks sketchy. 1 hour well below the 200-day moving average. The half-hour time frame well below the 200-day moving average. Even the 15-minute time frame pretty far below the 200. Although you're trying to go back to that, which is at 114,000. So unless you're looking at the really small time frames, it doesn't look great. Like the 7-minute is just about to break the 200. That's a good sign. 5-minute is just above it. So we'll see what happens. I do see the smaller time frames looking for a bounce here. Like it's very likely we'd get some kind of bounce, and I'm expecting a rounded bottom here, but I'm still saying it does look sketchy. So I would expect, I think on the higher time frames, if you zoom out, I think that most likely scenario is we get a bounce, but I believe we're going to make a lower high, like maybe back to 120,000, and then we roll over back to 110. Something like that seems like the most likely scenario for me. Maybe I'm wrong. But I would be looking for a lower high, and I would not be surprised if for the next 3 months we don't make another new all-time high until we just consolidate a little bit. That'd be a great time to just accumulate even more Bitcoin before we get our next leg up. I don't think the bull run is over, but I'm open-minded, but I believe that Bitcoin right now is probably consolidating for a lower high, then you make a lower low, and then we can get a move on out. I think we go back down to probably 110,000 before we really continue this bull run, but maybe I'm wrong. We'll see what happens. If you guys have requests for altcoins, let me know in the comment section below, and I will look at them. But for right now, I do see a bounce coming for Bitcoin. I think it's the most likely scenario. I know it looks sketchy. It's the weekend. I think come tomorrow night when it's Sunday night, the liquidity will come back into the market, and we'll get the bounce back to the upside. And if we don't, then really, if you lose 112K, the next up is 110K. So I would be calling for a bounce here on Bitcoin. I know it looks sketchy, but the most likely situation is that we're so oversold. The most likely situation, from what I can see, is that we get the bounce. It does look sketchy, but the smaller time frames, especially like the 5-minute, are now finally back above the 200. But I would be looking for this 4-hour time frame to get a bounce back to $118,000. That seems like the most likely scenario, and I'll leave it at that. It's kind of my call for tonight. And if we go back down to the 5-minute time frame, if you're just scalping this wouldn't be a bad long entry right now, being back above the 5-minute 200. That's not financial advice, but that's just what I see going on. So that's my update. I see a long coming for Bitcoin back to 118,000. If that happens, a lot of altcoins will rally. I don't know what this is. I saw that USDC against the US dollar is up like 17%. No idea what this is. But yeah, that's kind of my update. I see a bounce coming for Bitcoin, at least even if it's a dead cat bounce for a lower high to 118. That just seems like the most likely scenario. How's it going, Matt? How are you doing? What are my thoughts on FIS on the daily and on the weekly? So let's go look at that right now. Is this in the stock market or crypto? I think it's crypto. So you said on the weekly and on the daily. Let me know if this is not the right one. So on the weekly, that looks horrible if this is what you're asking me about. So this looks pretty bad, but I appreciate the request. I appreciate the likes. So I see support down there. It's just like in a downtrend. It doesn't look fantastic. I think that's enough support and resistance levels because I can add one more right here, I guess. Because, I mean, if you get back above $1.23, that's a 10x away. So let's be realistic. So the weekly time frame, trying to get the bounce, trying to get a double bottom. It's not even a double bottom. That was a lower low, actually. Let's jump down to the daily now. Daily time frame below the 200-day moving average. So to me, that's pretty bearish. You're barely above the 21, which is that blue line. So daily is oversold. You could be looking for a bounce here. That would be a higher low, technically speaking, on the daily. So daily could be trying to reverse here, but it doesn't look fantastic. Here's the bullish scenario. I would expect some bounce here. The question is, are you going to put in a higher high? The trend's your friend until the end. You have, that's a lower high, but then that's, this is a higher low. I will say this is a higher low. So if you want to start a new trend, you'd have to put in a higher high above 18.4 cents. The measurement out of this falling wedge, even though it's a bad looking falling wedge, is 20 cents. So to me, it looks decent. It looks decent right now for a bounce, but it doesn't look fantastic. If you look at the 4-hour time frame, you are above the 200 on the 4-hour. So, at the end of the day, the weekly looks bad, but the daily looks decent. So I'd be calling for a long here on this asset. If it were up to me, though, I'd play the 4-hour time frame and put my stop below the 200-day moving average, which would be at basically 11 cents. So stop below 10.9, 11 cents. That's, that's not a bad idea based on what I would do, right? STAFI. I've never heard of any of these, so we'll see what these are. We're going to do it against the US dollar. If you look on the weekly time frame, this is again just a downtrend, and again, looks pretty bad. So I would be pretty cautious on these assets. I don't know what these are. I'm actually surprised this one's on Coinbase. It looks pretty bad. So weekly doesn't have enough data to go off of. So we'll look at the weekly. Is good to support and resistance, but like even the daily, again, below the 200. It just looks bad. 12-hour below the 200-day moving average. I would pretty much say that your next support to the downside is about 6 cents. That seems like the next likely scenario because you're putting in lower highs and lower lows. I think this looks actually even worse than the last one. So we'll see what happens. Could this be a massive round of bottom? Possibly. You're at least on this one. You're above the 200-day moving average on the 4-hour time frame. So on the smaller time frames, these are the levels I've been watching. If you can stay above 10 cents, we'll say 10 cents. If you stay above 10 cents, then you have a chance to go to 18. But it looks like you got rejected off 18 cents and are coming down. Daily isn't oversold yet. So I'd still see, I think you come down to 10 cents and then you could be looking for a bounce back to the upside on whatever this is. As long as you're above the 200-day moving average on the 4-hour, though, technically you could be bullish at least on that time frame. And I love to trade the 4-hour time frame. So, we'll see what happens. You could enter long and put a stop loss below 11 cents, and that wouldn't be a bad idea. We'll see what happens. But yeah. So it doesn't look bad on the smaller time frames. I will say that. So, alrighty. Appreciate it. If you guys want a request, if you guys would like if you guys have a request, let me know, and all I ask you guys to do is hit the likes in return. I see an AVAX request on TikTok. So we'll see what happens. I'll be waiting. So let me see if there's anything above that. I see someone requested Gremley. Don't know what that is. Ethereum, please. Thank you for the follow, Atar. I think I already said that. I will look at Ethereum. It doesn't look great. I made a YouTube video on Ethereum the other day. Thank you for the likes now. I made a YouTube video on Ethereum. I did make a YouTube video on Ethereum. I said this could be bouncing here, and the 4-hour time frame finally looks like it is bouncing. I would like to see a bullish engulfing candle. Did we get that yet on Ethereum? You still really haven't. So you have not yet. Until you hit $3,500, Ethereum's still not looking great. But I would think that's the bottom. That's pretty crazy dump. So I would be looking for that to be the bottom on Ethereum. Yeah, that looks very likely for a bottom there. And at this point, this falling wedge did not play out, but you can redo this. And let's just start from scratch on Ethereum now. So this is a really steep falling wedge, but it is a falling wedge. It is a falling wedge. And the last time you were oversold would have been right. You got oversold right here. So your measured move, though, doesn't look fantastic. That'd be a lower high. And your measured move is about $3,700, but that's it. So at least, even if it's a dead cat bounce at $3,700, so that's what I'd be looking for on Ethereum, is that bounce at $3,700. And then at that point, that could be a lower high, but we'll see. That's what I'd be looking for. I'm at least looking for Ethereum to get a bounce at $3,700, That just seems like the most likely scenario. Thank you, R2, for the follow. I do appreciate it. So if you guys have anything else, let me know. Otherwise, again, I'll be back live Monday night as well. SWFTC is another request I just got. Weekly on SWFTC has support at 9 and resistance at 1.4. I'm going to go down to the daily. Daily is below the 200-day moving average. You are oversold, so this could be making a higher low here. We'll see what happens. Measured move would take you up to about 1.4, 1.5 cents. I could see this happening for SWFTC. This looks like the best one you've requested so far. I don't love the fact you're below the daily 200, but my guess is that the 4-hour time frame is actually below the 200. So to me at this point, this is no trade zone for SWFTC. And to be honest with you, it looks like there's a lack of volume right now. There's these these candles are they just don't look filled all the way. Yeah, it's just random price action. I would stay away from this. This has the lack of volume, and you're below the 200-day moving average on the 15-minute, on the 4-hour time frame, and on the daily. So to me, at this point, it's definitely not even a short. It's just a no trade zone to me. Yeah, no, that's not. I mean, that's just what I would do. Okay, so that's just what I would do. It just doesn't look great. So again, going back to Bitcoin, I'd be looking for the bounce on the 4-hour time frame back to 118,000. That's kind of my recap for the night. I hope you guys have a great night. I'll see you guys again on Monday night. This was just a quick update. My Monday live stream will be longer, but that's kind of everything I wanted to go over for right now. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. And I'd be looking for the bounce, but it doesn't look fantastic. The market's still kind of suck right now. And the only trade I'm in right now is a short on Yearn Finance, because we're below the 4-hour 200 and we're below the 15-minute 200. So that's why I'm in that short. This could be bouncing here though. But as long as you stay below those two key moving averages, I'm short with a stop at 5,100. So that's kind of my update on Yearn Finance, and that's the only position I'm in. And again, I'll be back live Monday, as of right now, 9 p.m. Central Time. If I have to change it, I'll let you guys know on Telegram. If you guys would like to join my free Telegram for questions or just to be alerted whenever I go live, you can join that via my TikTok page or my X page. So I'll see you guys in the next one. I hope you guys have a great night. And until Monday, have a great rest of your weekend. The trend's your friend till the end. Right now, the trend is starting to become to the upside, but still to the downside on Bitcoin and Ethereum. So just be cautious. That's all I got to say. I'll see you guys in the next one. Until Monday, have a great weekend. Adios. Woo! Okay. That's my update, guys.